All right, good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure now to announce my co-host this morning. He's a blogger, he's a speaker, he's a podcaster, and he is the CEO of Good Leadership Enterprises, Paul Botts.
America just is really thriving in the micro and small businesses now. We're kind of returning to our roots. I think the goodness there is that accountability could also have a synonym as ownership. That's why I'm so happy today to have our friend Amanda Brinkman here. She's recently become kind of an internet television rock star. In her job at Deluxe, they created this television program called Small Business Revolution. So without further ado, Amanda Brinkman.
Thank you. My name is Amanda Brinkman, and I am on a mission to prove that companies can do well by doing good. And I want to talk a little bit about how I came to that as kind of my life and career mission. So I grew up in right here in Minnesota, about 23 miles northeast of here. I was raised in Mounds View, Minnesota. I grew up in a wonderful middle-class family. I had wonderful parents who were fun and caring and supportive, and with a younger sister, Rebecca. I went to grade school at Prince Peace Lutheran School in Fridley, Minnesota, right across the street from Unity Hospital where I was born. When I was in 5th grade, we moved to Circle Pines, Minnesota, which is a suburb just north of Shoreview, and I went to Concordia Academy for high school in Roseville, Minnesota. And it was at Concordia Academy that I had a conversation that really changed my life. And I think every moment, every conversation, every person in our life is constantly helping form who we are going to become as people. But we probably all have a couple of those conversations in our life that really change the way you think about something. And they can be words that someone shared with you multiple times. It's something about the way that person said it or the way they framed it changes the way you think about something. And the conversation I was having was with our AP English teacher. I was a junior in high school, and we were talking about what we wanted to do when we grew up. And I was raised in a family where giving back and volunteering and being a good person was very, very important. And it was something that I wanted to do with my career. But I was really, really attracted to kind of the advertising and marketing world. My mom loves to tell this story about how when I was a little girl, television programs would be on, and I wouldn't pay much attention to the program itself, but as soon as the commercials came on, I was glued to the television. Now that I have a young daughter, I get that all kids kind of do that. But I knew that I just wanted to go into that. I loved film, I loved production, I loved TV. I loved just that whole industry. But I shared with this professor, he was a professor at Bethel and was teaching at Concordia Academy. I shared with him, I want to go into advertising and marketing, but I want to do something good. And I feel like the advertising world is just a little secular. Like I feel like it just kind of has this wrapper to it that doesn't feel good. And I remember he said, Amanda, if people who want to do good do not go into advertising and marketing, how will the industry ever get better? And the way he framed that changed the way I thought about it. I was thinking that I needed to join the Peace Corps or become a missionary or a Christian day school teacher in order to put goodness out in the world. And the way he was terming it is, don't wait for an industry or a job to be good. Go into it and make it good yourself. And so I did go into advertising. I started at Cohen & Wolfe in London, which is an incredible PR agency. I came back to Minnesota and worked at Campbell Methune and at a great agency called Fallon. And I have to admit, I was all ready to bring goodness to advertising and marketing. But I ended up working at these really phenomenal firms for really big brands, and I was never really conflicted morally. We were never trying to do these terrible ad campaigns that were trying to, not be good. But what I realized that is during those years, I was learning the building blocks of marketing and advertising. I then moved to the corporate side because I felt like maybe that's where I could make a difference. For those of you who have perhaps seen the TED Talk that I gave that Paul sent out with the registration, I talk a little bit about how I had this defining moment at Fallon that really changed the way I thought about it. And I'll summarize it here in order to not repeat myself. But I had this just realization that as an industry, advertising and marketing, as a global industry, we spend $500 billion on advertising and marketing. These are dollars that we spend talking about ourselves as companies. And when you think about what $500 billion a year could do for any cause, any sort of research, alleviating homelessness or attacking hunger or water pollution, when you think about what those kind of dollars could do to change the world, it's extremely impactful. And then when you think about the fact that in the advertising and marketing world, we spend a lot of those dollars on skippable ads, things that people don't want to spend time with, things that we're trying to avoid as consumers. And so that's when I had this realization that as an industry, companies could they do well by doing good? Could we think about how to achieve our business goals and reach our customer base, but do good for it on our way to doing it? And I truly believe that we could do that. So when I moved to the corporate side, I started at a company called United Health Group. Everyone in the room has probably heard of United Health Group. And I worked in what was at the time Optum Health. And I was brought in to start an internal advertising agency or internal marketing group, and it was meant to be a cost-saving metric. Instead of having outside agencies, it was something that we were going to do to have those resources internally. But we ended up turning it into something that was reaching consumers and helping them make better decisions around their health. No other healthcare company at the time was focused on that, not just insuring people when they get sick, but actually thinking about how you prevent it in the first place. I then moved on to Allianz, and when I was there, we were focused on financial literacy and really focusing on how do you change the way people think about their finances. I'm now at a company called Deluxe, and this would be, I would say, the time when I was truly able to bring this how do you do well by doing good mission to life. So at Deluxe, we're a 100-year-old company. Known for checks, and that's for good reason. For over 100 years, we have been helping people reach their financial goals through helping them operate their business as well as run it. And so when I was brought in, the goal was, or the task at my feet was, how do you turn around a 100-year-old brand that's known for a legacy product that's in decline? We weren't prepared to spend a lot, and we were really focused on working with small businesses on their marketing needs. Over the years, we had been evolving right alongside our customers. So while checks are a very important part of our business still today, that is not what our growth is focused on. Our growth is really focused on small business marketing and helping small businesses be more successful by growing and running their business. So how do you turn around a 100-year-old check printer's brand perception? One of the things I love to do whenever I start a new company is I like to go out and spend time with the customers. So I was spending time with small businesses. These were the customers that we wanted to reach. And when I was out spending time with small businesses, Paul talked about it earlier, when you meet a small business owner and you hear their story, you want to support them. I would be out and I would be meeting with the restaurant owner, and I would be talking about why he started his business. And I would be hearing about how hard it was to run that business. And I just knew that we had to tell their stories. We wanted to truly create a movement. We felt like if we could go out and tell the stories of small businesses, we could compel and inspire more people to support small businesses. Now, we were using our advertising dollars. So we had a very small budget, but still a budget focused on how do you grow your brand perception with small businesses. But instead of spending that on print or TV or on ads that were just about ourselves, we were spending it on telling the stories of small businesses in order to create more demand for supporting them. We were trying to achieve our business results, but we wanted to do good for the very community we were serving. So in that first year, we went across the country and told the stories of 100 small businesses. And we brought these stories to life through films and photo essays, and we did it in a really cinematic way. We hired a documentary company, and the fact that it was cinematic was part of the point. These are the hard-working small businesses that are creating the fabric of our economy. This country was built on the backs of small businesses, and we wanted to celebrate them and honor them with that cinematic quality. We wanted to tell their stories in a way that they had never been told before. And so after we went across the country telling these 100 stories, the momentum was huge. People were following along in social media. It was continuing to have this momentum. But one of the things that we noticed when we were going across the country telling the stories of small businesses is that nowhere are small businesses more under siege than in our small towns. And nowhere are they more critical. Who here is from a small town? A lot of people? When you tell people to visit this town that you're from, do you talk about the Walmart on the edge of town? Or do you talk about the diner and the barbershop and the antique store that's been there for years. You talk about these small businesses that make your town unique. But with big box retailers moving on the edge of town, main streets being rerouted, major highways coming in, these small town business owners are struggling. It's really hard to compete with national restaurant chains and the big brand budgets of these big box retailers. And so we wanted to do something about it. We wanted to take our storytelling a step further and go out and actually help the businesses as well. We wanted to tell their stories, but do something to help them thrive. And that's when the Small Business Revolution Main Street was born. Paul referenced it earlier. That's the show that we produce. We're in the 3rd season of it. It's on Hulu, and it streams online at smallbusinessrevolution.org. And in the show, each year we are proving the thesis that if you have a strong small business core, an entire town can thrive. And nothing can make a small business more heroic than claiming that the entire town is reliant on them being there and their success. And each year when we're going into these towns, what we do is each season is 8 episodes. And one episode is about the town itself, the challenges, the opportunities. And the other episodes are each about an individual business. And we go in and we help them understand their numbers, their marketing, operations, maybe physical changes to the business. And in each of these episodes, Deluxe, who provides marketing services, helps the small businesses with their marketing. But you can't do a makeover for a small business and not help them with their marketing. I saw a lot of you raise your hand that you were small business owners. The 2 things that we find most often that business owners struggle with, and you may or may not agree with this, but are finances and knowing your numbers, and knowing what the numbers are telling you, and marketing, staying on top of it, social media, all the new trends. How do you possibly do both things as well as run and operate your business? And so what we love about this show is that it's continuing to evangelize for supporting small businesses, how important they are to our country, to our economy, to our neighborhoods, and to our communities. But it's also allowing us to tell people the story that Deluxe does marketing for small businesses. But it's in a very authentic way. It's a natural way. We're just playing a character in the show helping these businesses. What I love about it is that, again, these are our advertising dollars. We could be making ad campaigns right now that say, hey, you used to know us as a check printer, but now we do marketing. That's what every other company would do with their advertising budget. But instead, we are taking these dollars, we are going to real main streets across the US, and we are investing those dollars in real businesses, in real people, and we are changing their lives. And so I'm on a mission to prove that this model can work anywhere. It is not unreasonable to think that you don't have to always think about business as kind of for-profit and nonprofit, and they're 2 very, very separate things. I think every company can think about what kind of audience you're trying to reach, and in your way to reaching them, how can you do good for that industry? I am not talking about philanthropy. I'm not talking about employee volunteerism. If you're a big company, you should be giving away money. If you're a big company or a small company, employee volunteerism should be a core principle. I'm talking about using actual dollars that you might use to just be talking about yourself and do it to advocate for and change the lives of your customers. I think it's the right way to behave as people, as brands, as companies, and it's such a much more authentic way to reach them. Think about the influence you have as a large company. You can affect things that your customer base can't. And I don't think every company needs to try and alleviate homelessness or try and fix the global water problem that we have. But there is something that matters to your customers that you can help affect. And just think about that connection you'll have with your customers if you're seen as not just someone who's trying to sell them something, but someone who is trying to actively participate in their lives. I truly believe that if all brands thought like this, just imagine what kind of world it could be. Think about if all that global spend was not only spent on just TV and print and this very skippable noise, but was actually spent on things that could change your customers' lives. I truly believe that you can do well and you can achieve your business goals, but you can do good for the very customer base that you serve. At Deluxe, we're seeing this. This show, not only is it fun to produce, and it's interesting that a check printer is producing Hulu's #1 lifestyle show, And so it performs well. But what's more impactful is that our employees, our customers, they're so proud of what we're doing. They realize that we're doing something bigger than just an ad campaign and just a marketing campaign. We are reaching small businesses in a way that is not just reaching them, we are creating lifelong fans. And not just in the businesses that we help. I mean, we have made over dozens of businesses now throughout the show. But each year when we're going out and trying to find, so each year people nominate their favorite small town. We narrow it down to 10, we go to visit them, and then we put up 5 for public vote. And then it's in the eyes of the public to determine the one winner that will be featured in the show. And what's interesting is when we were out in these 10 communities, visiting, trying to narrow it down, each of these 10 communities is changed. The trajectory of these towns is different because we've come to town, because they prepared for our visit. And so what I love about this program, and again, I think this is replicable at other companies, is the ripple effect. So think about, again, how you can impact your customers' lives and advocate for them in a more impactful way, and how you can do well by doing good. And again, I believe all brands are capable of this, and I just want you to imagine with me what kind of world it could be if we all thought that way. Thank you.
I have a few questions prepared, and then I told Amanda, be careful, we might go anywhere with this interview. So, big shifts in big companies are really hard to do. How did you convince the executive team and the board that this is where we really needed to invest?
Mm-hmm. It was a challenge, for sure. We're a very conservative company, and we measure everything, as many companies do, right? So when I was brought in to kind of transform the brand, the company and the business had already transformed, but how do we bring the brand along? How do we change those perceptions and raise the awareness? When I said, we're going to go from something that is very, very measurable. I mean, we would measure, every single email headline and efficacy of every, little aspect. And I said, you know what we should do? We should make beautiful films. Like, oh, okay, well, how are you going to measure that? I said, I won't be able to do that. And that was an interesting discussion. But, I report directly to our CEO. His name is Lee Schramm, and he is definitely a visionary and saw kind of the benefit of this. And then I just made a very passionate speech to the board about, do we just want to be like all of our other competitors? I mean, our competitors are GoDaddy, Constant Contact, Vistaprint. These are spending giants. They outspend us about 14-1. And I just talked a lot about how if we just do another ad campaign, we will just be a whisper in a competitive spend hurricane. We have to do something different. Our competitors are all so busy selling small businesses stuff, and it doesn't honor small businesses. It's noisy, it's confusing. So we can stand all the way over here. We can own something completely different. No one else is trying to create a movement. No one else is trying to do something good for the small business community. We can own this space. And I think it was the ownership piece of it that really appealed to them, that if we just did something like all of our other competitors were doing, it won't even stand out because of our spend level, that we needed to do something different. And I also really talked a lot about, and I promised, and luckily we were able to deliver, that we could stretch our spend. I believed that if we did something that people wanted to spend time with, that people would share it on our behalf. And social media certainly has done that for us. Earned media has done that. Since the inception of the small business revolution, we have over 3 billion impressions, and we've had nearly 2,500 news stories written about it. And I don't care how good you are at PR, I probably could have gotten 3 stories written about the fact that Deluxe was turning 100. I mean, that's just not news anymore. A centennial is a big deal, right? I mean, Kieran and I talk about this a lot. A centennial is a big deal for a company, but it's just not newsworthy anymore. Mm-hmm. So a big part of it was I said, I'm going to take this budget that you've given and we can stretch it because we're going to do something that matters and that people, again, want to spend time with, and people will share it on our behalf. And so that organic reach and that earned media reach have certainly done it. So to date, we have now reached 14 times more people than we would have reached if we would have spent the same amount that we've invested in the films in paid advertising.
Yeah. So. It sounds fascinating. So let's talk about the films. So you grew up watching the television thinking, man, I want to do that. Now you do it. Yeah, you're like a TV star.
I guess.
So let us inside on that, right? Let us inside that. What's the best part about producing this show?
The best part is that I play both roles behind the camera and on screen. So I don't know that I have ambitions to continue to do on screen if I wouldn't have the creative control that I do of the show. So I know what we're trying to do, what the narrative is, the mission, and so that's what makes it worthwhile. It's that I'm not just on screen to be talking. I have a mission while I'm on the screen. I think the only reason it really works, I mean, when I started Deluxe, the idea was not that we were going to produce a reality show. That wasn't how this originally started. I think the only reason it works is because it's not scripted television. It's really reality. And so all you have to do to be good at reality television is not care that there's a camera there. Like, that's the secret. So, and for some reason that doesn't bother me. And so it's been a lot easier than I guess we would have thought. But it's really interesting. I mean, like I said earlier, our show is the #1 lifestyle show on Hulu. And we're, a 100-year-old check printer producing something that competes with Biggest Loser and The Profit. And I mean, these shows that, like, their job is to create a show.
Yeah.
I've got a whole other day job, and we're also producing a show that outperforms them like 5 to 1. I mean, so anyway, so it's fun. I mean, I love it. So in seasons 1 and 2, my co-host was Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank. If you guys watch Shark Tank, he's the one that sits at the end. The one my mom says is a good-looking one, I guess.
Yeah.
Other people say it other than my mom, but she says it a lot. And now we're in the midst of shooting season 3, and my co-host this year is Ty Pennington from Extreme Home Makeover. And
my mom says he's good to look at. Yeah.
He's crazy. He's fun. Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, I don't know. It's fun to do, but again, I think I wouldn't want to do it if it was just a TV show. I think what is really exciting about this is that this work matters. People often say this show is so good. When is it going to be like on a network or whatever? And I've talked to them. I've talked to CNBC, ABC. I shouldn't be naming names, but I've talked to a number of networks, and the things that they want to do to the show, I won't do to the show. They're like, oh, you got to make it look like the business owner is really stupid, or you have to create drama, or make it look like the two owners are fighting, or all this stuff. And we don't need to create drama where it doesn't exist. Being a small business owner in and of itself is hard enough. Like the antagonist is running the business. It doesn't need to be each other. And so we just won't do that. I mean, I often say it's kind of like The Profit meets Extreme Home Makeover. It is a business makeover. You can learn from it. You can be inspired and affirmed by it if you're a business owner, and hopefully entertained. But it's nice. I mean, we're doing it in a very helpful way. We're there to truly help and change these people's lives. And drama just follows us anyway. Yeah,
I find it, so we talk about encouragement, accountability, and good teamwork. This is the best example I've seen of just flat out encouragement, which is it's the simplest concept ever, but you really need it when you're a small business owner.
Yeah, like we always say, the show is kind of one part education. Like if you watch it, you learn a lot as a small business owner. We're advising them on so many things, but it's also one part inspiration and affirmation. If you're a business owner, sometimes it just feels good to watch someone else going through what you're going through and say, oh, I'm not alone. Like, they also don't know their numbers, or they also don't know how to fire their sister who they hired at the very beginning because that's the only person who can work for us. Or they also have issues with their landlord, or they also can't figure, the list goes on. And there's just something about seeing someone else go through what you go through, because being a business owner is very lonely. Right? Everybody else looks at you from the outside and says, you own your business, you're doing great, you're rich, you've got all these resources. And it's not like that. It's hard. I don't have to tell you guys. And so we're trying to just do that. We want people to see themselves in the show and see themselves in these business owner stories. And so I think that's what's so rewarding about it, is just being able to tell these authentic stories that I think everyone can relate to.
Well, I've known you long enough to know that you're always busy. But how has this changed your life?
We talk about this on my team a lot. It's kind of, it's almost career ruining, right? Like I don't want to work, I will not work for a corporation again that won't invest in something like this. And it won't always be a show, right? Like that's just, that is the execution of this. But I just refuse to work for a company that doesn't think about how can you do more than just talk to your customers? How can you actually participate in their lives and make it better? How can you do well by doing good? And so it's really changed everyone on my team's like kind of expectations of who you work for. And it might be a little bit like that professor told me. I mean, I might have to go to a company that doesn't originally believe in it, and I'm there to help bring that belief or that thought process to them. But it's just changed my life in terms of realizing I just think we're all on this planet to make each other's lives better. And whether that's like a daily affirmation or a smile or a helping hand or putting money in a bucket or going in and helping truly transform someone's business, which affects their entire life, we're all here to move each other forward and make each other feel better and help. And so this has changed my life to realize that you can do both things. Like, I'm doing this for my job. I feel blessed. I feel so blessed. I get to help people through my job. My daughter says that a lot. She doesn't just call it work. She says, you're going to help people. And I'm a corporate executive at a publicly traded company, and like that's what she thinks I do, and I do. And
well, let's talk about your daughter a little bit. You spend a lot of time away from home. How do you make that work?
It's hard. That's the hardest part about what I do. So our daughter is 7. Well, she'll be 7 in June. She knows exactly how many dates. And that's the hardest part. So when we're out shooting, we're gone for about a week at a time. And I've got all these kind of life hacks that kind of help me balance it. But I think whenever you're a working parent, and I think sorry men in the room, but I do think it's different for women. I think we carry a different kind of guilt when we're gone and when we're busy. And so I try to think of it as I don't have balance if you look at my life on a weekly basis or even sometimes on a monthly basis. But I try to achieve it on an annual basis. And I think like over time, I just need to think that I might not be the quantity parent, but I can be the quality parent. My husband's a quality parent too. That sounds terrible. But you know what I mean. Okay, don't tell him I said that. Okay. But I think I just have to think about really making those moments matter when I'm there. So if I'm gone for a week, I make sure I schedule a 3-day weekend. And if we're just going to like some fun water park for 3 days, whatever, so I'm super present and intense because when you're at home, you just find other things to do. So I have all these different hacks I do to try and kind of get that balance, but that's the hardest part.
Very well said. Well, I'm curious to find out from your perspective, now that you've invested in this idea and you've probably become one of the experts on this concept, where do you see goodness pay around you outside of Deluxe?
Well, I certainly feel like goodness pays in terms of board service. I think we have a number of really great boards here in Minneapolis. So many great nonprofits. You and I both serve on the Make-A-Wish board, ran by an excellent CEO, Maya. And I feel like it pays in terms of, when you serve on a board, you end up spending time with people within the industry in a different way, right? You are aligned on a mission, you make a deeper connection, and I feel like none of us join a board in order to make connections in the business world, but I feel like that is kind of what ends up happening as a result. And so I feel like if you go into board service with the right intentions to make a difference for that nonprofit, I feel like it kind of pays in the way that your business network is richer in a more authentic way in connections.
Yeah, very well said. Final question. I see you just in prime time in your career. It's spectacular to watch this. What can we expect from you in the future? I mean, I'm not expecting you to say you're going to quit Deluxe or anything like that, but what can we expect from the future, and then how can we get involved and help?
Oh, thank you for asking. I just want to keep doing this. I want to go to, I love Deluxe and I love what we're doing, and I don't have any plans to go anywhere anytime soon, but I want to go do this at another company. I believe that all companies are capable of thinking this way, and again, it won't always be a show. That's just our execution of this idea, but I believe all companies are capable of doing well by doing good. And again, it's not philanthropy, it's not just giving away dollars, it's active participation. In our industry, we talk a lot about brand purpose. That's kind of almost becoming a little bit of a catchphrase. It's like the new term for mission statement. But what I'm talking about is brand action. How can you actually have your brand do something that is actionable for your customers? And so I want to prove that this wasn't an anomaly, that it wasn't just Deluxe at this time in our history and what we were trying to do with small businesses, that this just happened to magically work. I want to prove that this model can work for any company. And I look around the Twin Cities and we have so many amazing companies, and I can't help but look at each of them and I have little ideas for each of them. I mean, every business could be doing something to advocate for its customers in a bigger way. So
Thank you. Thank you very much for being a part of the Good Leadership Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.